everything up live now, starting the recording. Christian's here, so we're just waiting on Storm. Oh, and also Chris Craig.
Yeah, Chris Craig should be.
Okay, here he comes.
All right, I got to get the agenda thing in front of me. Well, I can do that.
I have it if you want me, if you need me to read it. Oh, here it comes.
Yeah, I got it though.
If that's all you need, is you just need somebody to read the prelude, I can do it. I got it right.
I can read it. I just got off the garden. Got 8,000 pounds of 57 rock.
Hopefully.
Unfortunately, dropped an easement. I have to haul it all in.
Oh.
Truck gate, the gate isn't wide enough. Made it wider, not wide enough.
All right.
Craig.
Okay, our Storm. All right. We got everybody. Chris, you're still on mute. Chris Craig.
Here I am.
Okay.
How is
All
everyone
right.
today?
Good.
Doing well, yourself?
Pretty good.
Oh. Is Bill here?
Bill is here.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, you want me to get started? We
It
good?
looks like I'm right next to you.
You are? Well, I'm
On
on my
my
phone,
screen.
so I can't see. Oh, there you are. All right. We ready to go, Deb?
Ready to go.
All right. Today, the Corporation of Harpers Ferry Purchasing Protocol Ad Hoc Study Committee will be meeting today, and this is a regular meeting now on Zoom only, and until further notice, the corporation. This is August 5th, 2021, 2 p.m. September 9th, 16th, 2 p.m. Until further notice, the Corporation of Harpers Ferry governing deliberative bodies will be holding its meetings and our hearings virtually via Zoom webinar, which provides for public participation during a public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda, which is not. Alternately, the public may watch by YouTube, video live stream, or listen by telephone. These options comply with the West Virginia Open Governmental Meetings Act. And with that, we'll get going. Call to order. Here we go. Approval of the agenda. Any changes? Okay. With that, and I don't know how many more meetings we're going to need. It is I think, a little harder to do, as you may have seen from my email, by Zoom for this type of meeting with a lot of documents. Town council and regular commissions I believe, would be a lot easier in that format. But maybe I just need to get used to this. So with that, we'll start with Storm, and you were going to talk about the electronic.
Yeah. So I think it's exciting news in that the parameters were really that what the committee was looking for was something for really the bidding process and not a complete project management suite. And if you follow the link that I think I shared with everybody, there are some platforms that are designed to be free for municipalities or jurisdictions of all sorts, and that are a minimal cost to vendors that provide, in one case at least, Bid Express, fairly robust features. And I apologize in advance. I have a little bit of brain fog today, but I'll try to keep myself on track.
Mm-hmm.
So I did do little seminars, online seminars with agents from both Bid Express and DemandStar. DemandStar, you can basically post a regular bid package that you've already prepared, and then it will, they can put it out for bid, you can receive bids. And that's more or less the extent of it. There are advantages to that. Whereas Bid Express, you can still put up a traditional bid package in digital form, or you can also build it within the platform. And they have templates with which you can start. You can add your own modules. It allows for e-signature within the platform. And that it can verify, like if there are bid bonds, and I'm just learning about all this myself, but it has these processes built into it. And in the case of Bid Express, I'm looking off my own sheet now. It's paid by the vendor, and they pay when they submit a bid, they submit for a bid. So of course, if we're doing things and it's a lot of very small bids, that could end up being a lot for a vendor. But if we're packaging things or for the larger dollar amounts, it would be a good value for them too. They also offer subscriptions that if it's somebody who's putting in for a lot of bids for a lot of different purposes and for different people, that can be cost efficient for them. And I have no idea how many of our vendors currently use electronic bidding, how many would be comfortable with it. Both the platforms I talked to directly, as well as the ones that I looked at that I did not talk to directly, do offer support for both the supplier and the vendor. So if it's us and we're setting things up, there is someone that is available to walk us through it, to help us out. And so too the vendors, if it's somebody who hasn't used the platform before, they are more than happy to help them use it. And in the chart, you can see, it provides communication with the vendors, electronic templates, compliance check, meaning if you have specified you must include this in order to bid, they can't actually submit it until they've done it. And I know in a bid recently, that was the case, and it had bounced. And then digital signing, which is not a paid, it's no extra charge for that. And also for bid bonds. The one thing the platform doesn't have is after the process is over and you can do them as sealed bids or not sealed bids, there's not a full suite of tools for managing contracts. Below in this chart, I did look at some of those platforms. I did not contact them because that seemed like it was outside of the parameters of what we were looking to do. And I know from friends who do similar work that these platforms, they are more costly, and they generally take at least one, if not multiple administrators to run them. And they're really designed for larger municipalities that need to track more things. That said, if we do expect we're going to have a lot of work going forward, they could be worth looking into. But as far as simply having a reliable process, electronic process that might also help us get more bids, I feel that the two choices are Bid Express and Demand Star, and between the two of them, Bid Express has much more robust tools, and that's what I've found.
I was going to ask you, Storm. By the way, somebody's sending a note here about who can see the transcript. Oh, maybe that's not to do with
Just
you.
part of Zoom.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're trying here for anybody's reaching out. But my question is, when the bid doesn't go through, will they know that? I mean,
Yes.
you know, I've sent emails and you don't know sometimes if the person received it.
Yeah. So I didn't actually, I was walked through it, but I didn't step through it myself. But they showed me, like, basically, if you don't upload a document where you are prompted to upload a document or check off a box that you need to check off, it will flag you and you won't be able to move to the next section.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I thought it was a great feature, and really, that's the thing that really distinguished it from Demand Star. That Demand Star is very much, you put it up there and there is compliance as far as you can break it up into sections where they download your document and then you need to upload it back. It will check for that. But as far as within that application, it's simply checking if they uploaded the PDF.
Oh,
An option where you can actually build it electronically onto the platform, and that right when you're on that page, they will know right away.
And from what I understand, our forms, even our paper form, is supposed to be completely filled out.
Yes.
I would believe, and if that's the case, I like this idea.
So I have a question too. On that line, the second line for bid express, all the way over on the right-hand side past the demo video column, there's something, a notation that says $3,750 per year, up to 25 projects. What does that mean?
I have to go back and check. They may have had an option where the municipality can choose to pay it for the vendors, or that might be if you are a vendor and want to subscribe to the platform, that might be what that is.
Okay.
But for certain, with this platform, there's the option where it's that per submission on the vendor's part that is the cost. And they did ask me also what we expect our volume to be. So there's a possibility that the volume of bids that we generate won't be enough for them to take us on as a client. They didn't say that, but I gave them a very loose estimate of the number of projects that I thought we would have.
Okay. Well, as we travel over to the flow chart side of the world, I can see how we might merge this in various capacities, you know, where it would become appropriate, where we wouldn't, you know, we just don't have it, where we don't need it, or, you know, this is what you do when we reach such a threshold. So aside, we might want to learn more about what we want out of that, those parameters. But this is a great launching point.
Yeah, it seems like it's a good tool for this process where it's, especially if it's more complex, where it's larger dollars. And also, if the subcommittee or anybody else would like to be stepped through the platform, both BidExpress and DemandStar, that we can set that up. And then, you know, if as we go through, we have more specific questions about how to operate these platforms, they would be able to answer them.
Well, and I know that the task, the things that seem daunting before us are really those ones that seem quite complex. But I also, as I've worked through the flowcharts, begin to wonder about things that are relatively simple, such as, you know, trying to lock in pricing on volume of purchases that we might use, such as plant chemicals or something where, you know, you work with, you know, you get bid from several vendors for a year's worth of product and try to lock in a price with them. Does it seem like we can modify it to be simple as well as dealing with the more complex?
Yeah, I only looked, it's basically just a platform for any bidding that you want to do.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the benefits, and both of them have this to different degrees, that you can actually go in and look at other municipalities that have put things out to bid on the platform, and they can even help you find them. If, let's say, you know, hey, is there any other municipality that has looked for a long-term chlorine contract? And that
Okay.
they actually might be able to help you find something that would be compatible, so you're not building it from scratch.
Great.
And I don't know how much patience they have as far as educating how to do each element of the bid process, but it does seem like a good tool as far as how you actually do the bids. That's something we're all going to have to learn together.
Sure.
But I like that idea because we need help writing the very initial bid, the proposal. So to see other entities or other municipalities, I think that'd be a valuable tool.
And just to know the difference, and I'm just focusing on these two, with DemandStar, you can download other municipalities' entire bid package. I think with BidExpress, you can look with more precision that as you build your bid in the platform itself, it's like, add little modules, and that you can write one yourself and put it up, or you can look through and do a search and say you want, show me municipalities that have done excavation, and it will pop some up. And
Okay.
I don't know the exact mechanical process, but there is a method that you can take another municipality's module on that, port it into yours, and then edit it for what we need.
Which one, how easy is it for the user, not us, the user, the end user? Well, we're the end, I'm not sure who we are, end or what, but the one who's putting in the information to respond to a request for bid.
Yep. So the term they use for us is the supplier, and they use vendor for anybody who's inputting the information in order to get the contract. From looking at it, I think it would be pretty simple for anybody who's accustomed to doing, even like, I'd say it's more difficult than, say, ordering something from Amazon, but not that much more difficult,
Well, that's about as high as most people probably can get, but yeah.
And again, they do have the support where vendors can call and get help directly from them. So that's not going to be a load on us to have to walk them through it. Certainly, if there are specific terms that we've developed, they'll have to ask us about that. But as far as mechanically getting onto the platform, filling things out on the platform, submitting them, and I think that would be part of what we would need to do, is especially early on, especially if it's vendors who've never used these electronic platforms, is a little bit of hand-holding and learning it ourselves, so that we know when we need to send them to the platform to get their answers.
Okay. Did you feel good about it overall as a possibility for Harpers Ferry?
Yeah, I was excited about it, and I like the representatives from both of the companies. I think it's very good times for them right now. There are a lot of infrastructure projects going on, so they're motivated, and and I do feel like, especially because there's no direct cost, it's not a heavy cost for the vendors, I don't think. But it is a new process. So even though we're not investing a lot of money in this, we will be investing our time and kind of our administrative capacity for any platform. So it's good to consider them carefully before we jump in.
And these are website, or they download software?
No, it's basically a website where you create an account. So yeah, we don't have to carry any website. We don't have to update anything. It's simple.
Beautiful, easy.
I guess for me, the two major questions are they going to help us find more vendors without through cost or difficulty bidding or something, make it more of a hindrance than an assistant for outreach, and then whether it's going to make less work for us and our staff rather than more work. So
I believe I'll answer the first one, or the second one first, which is, I believe if there's a decent adoption rate to the electronic platform, that it will absolutely save a ton of time, especially on Bid Express, because it will be possible to do that electronically, just cutting down the sheer amount of typing, double checking, all that stuff. Then that's the big question, is how many of our folks will adopt it. Even if they don't, on both of these platforms, people can still submit the traditional bid. We can still do that. So no one will be locked out if they're not using the electronic platform. It's just more efficient. Now, going to the first one, the way it could help us get more bids is Bid Express in particular, and each one of these platforms seems to have regional strengths, and Bid Express seems to have a fair footprint in West Virginia, also Virginia. So it could give us exposure to to vendors, to contractors who are already on the platform, maybe some that we haven't encountered. Some of them may be a little further away, but if they're looking for work, they might go to this platform and see what's posted. So
You say Bid Express has the good record in West Virginia or the good outreach here.
between the two of them, they seem to have more both municipalities and vendors on their platform versus Demand Star, which seems to be skewed a little bit more towards the Midwest. They have some presence here. And again, I didn't look deeply into the other platforms because they appeared to be more pay to play, more robust, more intense.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, yeah, I feel like the next thing would be if anybody does want to kind of see it for themselves and kick the tires of it, then I'm happy to arrange a follow-up call with one or both. And then once we're satisfied that it's something we feel can help our process and potentially get more bids, then look into how we would actually implement it as part of this larger process.
I would say before we had the new water distribution system being put in, I would say we probably wouldn't need this, but with this we're going to be bidding for years.
I agree.
I think we need to get with the times, because that's probably where everybody's headed anyway.
Yeah, and going back to Chris's question, I really do feel like this will save us a ton of time. Like, this is the sweet spot between a very complex platform that can do everything for you that requires a lot of training and attention, and the old way of just, having a paper bid and hoping it is done completely and needing to very manually go through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. What these are, I think the creature that these are, they're websites, but they're what would be called the ASP, or an application service provider. And that model has worked well in a lot of different industries. And I think what it does for us is it allows us to be more nimble and expend a lot less personnel time on this process and have everything stay clean and organized without having to put a lot of extra effort into it. And I do think that it does give us expanded opportunities for reaching potential bidders. And it all looks relatively straightforward to me. I have not looked at it in the depth that you have. And I think your spreadsheet is great. But yeah, I think this will give us the ability to play like a larger municipality with less effort.
Yeah. Now, Storm, so we put out a bid for something. Let's say it was a snow bid, which is already out, by the way. But we would then have some link or something that they would open up to apply for it that way. Is that practically how they do it on public bids?
Yeah. So if you go in, you can search, and I think you don't pay anything just to search. And then you'll see, I think you can search by geography, you can search by type of work, and then you'll get your list, and you pop one open and you get a synopsis, and that would be something we would write. And then at that point, if you decide it's something that you would be interested in bidding, and I think the two platforms work a little differently, then you would then, I think in the case of Bid Express, you would say, okay, I want to bid, and it would take you into that bid flow. For Demand Star, I think you would simply download whatever documentation is required to submit the bid, and then you would later re-upload it.
I just want to make it easy for the vendor.
Yeah.
They're not electronic scientists. We're not dealing with IT people here. We're dealing with construction companies and.
I think you're underestimating the industry.
Yeah, I do too.
Because this is actually easier for them than getting a stack of paper that they don't understand all the pages and they're like, well, what's this? And trying to suss out what's boilerplate. This is going to shepherd them through our forms, and they can't lose it. They can't spill coffee on it. You know,
Mhm.
they can look at it on their heavy duty iPad out in the field. You know, all of these people use computers now, and because it's easier. And I think, I mean, I imagine, you know, there are a few around here that probably don't, but for the most part, you know, they're still looking at Facebook at home. So this is, you know, that level of complexity or less. So I think we'll be fine in that regard. I had a quick question about the West Virginia bids on there, on your list.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a place where we can throw our bid out?
It appears to be, although it wasn't clear to me if you can submit your bids or if it's like an automated script that's grabbing things from different locations.
Like an aggregator.
It's definitely an aggregator, but I don't know if it's one to which you can submit items or if it's just automated and
It's
you know,
just, it's like scraping the internet for, gotcha. I'll have to look into that, because there are places out there and services out there that will throw your information much larger than we'd even need, you know, for relatively low cost.
And I can do some investigation to see what kind of traffic volume they do, to see if it's worth it, and even look to see if there might be others out there. But that's what came up when I was searching.
Because that's fantastic. I think that's a for us, that would be a good secondary tool potentially. Or maybe it's time for us to get together and develop our own and then sell it to the rest of West Virginia. So and pay for our infrastructure that way.
Having developed a booking engine for my company, I don't recommend it.
Well, I live with a software engineer, so it's amazing what's possible now in just apps. But yeah, if this doesn't do it, we'll have to find something that does. But I just keep thinking there's conduits now for getting our bids out there for inexpensive that we're just not tapping.
Well, I think the other thing we should just graze through and make sure that we're not overlooking is the Oasis, the West Virginia Oasis platform, which I always kind of hold my breath when I say, because it is very awkward to work with, I think, but it's probably just one of those things that you need to learn how to use. But through all the code for the West Virginia State Agency, you know, that's the platform through which they post their bids when they are publicly bidding. So that we might want to look at that as a resource, at least for casting the net. I don't know. I just don't want us to overlook that and regret that we didn't.
Well, yeah, it sounds like it's with those platforms, it's not an either or. It's and once you've learned a process of how to do it, you know, it's relatively simple.
Yeah.
Okay. So we covered everything on this segment, or what's the next step? What would you guys like to? What are you thinking?
Well, the options are, if we're ready to make a determination, it would be to contact them informally or to decide which one we wanted to adopt and open an account. Or if anyone would like to do their own due diligence or has questions, then we can set up a follow-up with one or both of the platforms to do that.
What's the cost to us if we just start with like Bid Express, for instance?
Nothing.
Huh? Nothing?
Nothing.
Because the vendors are going to pay it.
Later the vendors will pay. It just whatever time it takes us, that's what it costs us.
No. Sounds good to me. I'm kind of, I don't know why we would wait. I think if it's going to save us some time, possibly find us more vendors, I think it's worth our time to start it. Maybe the first one being the pipe, was it the storm pipe?
I agree. Having the ability to feed a live, it's like a live fire exercise for us. But I think I think that's good though, because we have, 90% of that bid package is done.
Yeah.
So I think it would be easy to carry it over, cut and paste, that sort of thing, or upload it, however we do it. But that'll be a good test. So, and I really do think that, I don't think there's any reason to wait on this. And I think the quicker we can get up to speed on using it, the quicker we have it's almost its own purchasing department. It's most of the logistical work of a purchasing department, is encapsulated in this process for things that require bidding. And so I think it'll simplify things. Since this is likely to fall on your lap, Deb, what do you think? Sorry, was I not supposed to say that?
You fell off her chair.
Yeah, I'm don't really, it doesn't cost us anything, so I don't really see that there's any concern about trying it or not. I guess I have my head in the process, and this is a component of the process, and so I'm and then I see the bid coming at me. So
Right. Well,
I'm not going to be able to pull that off on my own. I can tell you that right now.
no, we're all in this together, but
if we feel like we want to request that we proceed with that bid using this platform, I don't really, or at least attempt to do that. I don't really think there's anything wrong with that.
no, well, we can always, it will not be difficult to go, okay, this is too complicated, we just need to get it out, because we'll already have it on paper. I'm not worried about that, but being able to, to sort of have something. Software is hard to try if you don't have something to try.
Yes, it's very true. Yeah, it's hard to create fiction with something that is,
That's correct. You can poke all the buttons and go, this looks neat, but you don't actually encounter the practical problems that you might. But the reason I ask you is because the way things work around here, you're going to have to, we're all sort of ghosts flitting in and out of town hall, whereas you're there. So, your input's very valuable here.
and I'm fine if you guys want to approve that for trying it particularly with Elk Run and seeing how we, kind of assess after that. That's fine. I also felt like, your description of it also might not have been a bad tool. I think one of the things that's rolling through my mind, which is really irrelevant outside of the scope of Elk Run, because it certainly would be applicable in that, is where in the process is it going to fall into being applicable? Is it applicable to the, landscaping job that we were trying to get done on the corner? Maybe not. I think those
Snow removal?
No, well, absolutely snow removal, so
that chlorine
maybe the chlorine contract, I don't know. So I guess that's sort of where but yeah, there's nothing wrong with selecting one. And then as we stumble into these things head on in the next month, while we're sorting out the process, we at least have an avenue to look at something.
Yeah, it's basically an engine we can start up when we need it. And I haven't digested all of the ordinances and anything that bears on when we would need to use it, but we may find it's a benefit, especially when it's hard to find bids. And if it turns out that this does find us more, then that's great. How about I can set up a session with it can be Deb, you, me, Bill, any combination of us, to say, hey, we're interested in trying your platform, and we have this bid that is half baked now. And then we see what happens and see what it's like with them onboarding us, what kind of help we get from them to set it up. And then we'll know pretty quickly if it goes up, if it's an improvement or if it ends up being a total pain.
Yeah. Okay, I'm okay with that.
And I have a question about it. Since it has no cost, are we the ultimate deciders or is it town council?
That's a good question. There's
I
not
think
a
we can
dollar
move
cost.
ahead on this. It's even Budget and Finance Committee could vote on it as,
I don't see any problem with us going ahead.
I
no.
mean, we're
If
not
there's not a-
executing anything. We can try it, and if we get it in the format that we like it, and then we want to then give it to council and say, this is how it's being presented. Are you okay with that?
And it's non-binding. It doesn't seem to create any compliance issues. If anything, it will help
No.
with them.
Right.
Correct. I think this lowers our legal risk rather than increases it. And we can always, this is sort of an extended test drive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
if making a bigger commitment, is something we want to run by the budget and finance, who are mostly here anyway,
We're all here.
or the town council, we can do that. I think even if we don't ask them to vote on it, if this proves to be a success for us, I think we present it to them, because you want to toot your victories loudly sometimes and let them know that, this is the fruit of the labors that they directed us to perform. So, but I don't know that it requires anything other than us.
Yeah, it's like, it's only a step up from saying we're going to purchase some paper clips from Amazon. It's a little more complicated, but at its heart, there's
Right.
no more commitment. Yeah.
I don't know I don't think we really need to vote. I mean, this is more of a study committee.
Right. We're going to study this thing in situ.
And here we're testing a prototype out. We're testing, we're doing a small test. That's going to be the Elk Run with this new software. We can report back later. This is
Yeah.
how it went.
I think that's sound.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, so we'll use Bid Express and we'll start with them, and Elk Run will be the first one.
Okay.
Great. Then Deb and Bill, you good with me setting up a follow-up with the rep at Bid Express to see about getting it going?
Yes, that's great.
Fantastic.
And then should we also, at the same time, do a little bit more snooping on West Virginia bids and the West Virginia Oasis and see how they
Good
can
idea.
help us?
Mhm.
Yeah, and it might be just as simple as, creating the bid on the one that you just said.
Oasis?
We're gonna try, not
Bid
Oasis,
Express.
the other one.
Bid
that we're
Express.
gonna try. And then posting what we create to Oasis. It might just be as simple as that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it will work like that. The only hindrance would be if there's something in Bid Express's terms that say you can't do that, like if they want to
Right,
keep it on their platform.
And we might not need to do that, we might be, just because the state is using that, we may not need to do that. It's something we need to explore. I mean, we might not need to use it, Oasis. We do need to find out about that for sure, but anyway, I just don't want us to overlook that because I do think we need to find out and learn. And Ken might be able to help us with that.
And for sure, anything that we are required to do, we have to do it. And I imagine that any platform would be sensitive to that and make allowance for it.
Right.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is, now I already lost my agenda. Oh my gosh, hang on.
The flow chart.
Old business. One of the things from our last meeting, when Deb, you brought out the flow chart, which I found very helpful, was there, and that's why I spent a little time on exceptions to competitive bidding. Yeah, we talked about dollars, but also, I think there's certain things we should have a list of, and I don't know if we have that, but I put this one together. And we can add more things to it, or we can drop things off this one. I don't know
Right.
what everybody
Well,
thinks, but
I like the list. I can say that from trying to develop flowcharts applicable to the process by utilizing the code 148. A lot of what you have listed here becomes further defined in the flowchart. And so I guess really namely the last two items, repetitive ordering of supplies and procurement that's available for only one source. There are definitions of how we can handle those things. Otherwise, I think the items that you have above apply. And in the code, there's also supporting documentation to help us define what it means.
okay.
And so it actually has become, it will probably become its own flow chart, honestly. Emergencies, like it won't, like there won't be a flow chart for exceptions from competitive biddings, but situations which create exceptions will have their own flow chart. So single reward and emergencies, and then repetitive supplies, I think will have their own life.
Okay. I just didn't want to, because I always find when I'm signing off on the waterworks bills, and so many of these supplies are repetitive.
Right.
And
well, the idea is not to hinder the access
correct.
to repetition, but we also, I think, need to decide whether we need to do more to I don't know if control is the right word that I want to use, but control the cost of those items that are repetitiously used throughout the year, and to protect us from fluctuations in market pricing.
Right, like the airlines buying fuel contracts that cover.
Yeah, something like that. And so to that end, in the code, they talk about the fact that, and this is something that I've put into each of the bid processes that I developed, the question becomes, with what you're proposing to buy, is the purchase of that same commodity or a similar commodity or service through over a 12-month period of time going to exceed $25,000? And if in the state's eyes, from the way they look at their code, if it's going to exceed $25,000, then you have to bid that as a $25,000 bidding level. You can't just
As an
say, well,
aggregate
today
amount.
I'm buying $1,000, and next week I'm buying $1,000, and next week I'm buying 500, and it's all the same thing. So they're separate purchases. You can't do that. That's called stringing. So I think that through this process, we will learn more about where we need to put those controls in place through bidding and where we don't need to. And then we can incorporate that into our budgeting and our budget approval, so that then when you go to approve a bill, you can say, okay, well, this is for whatever chemical it is, and we bid that out. And, part of approving the bill should be that the person who is initiating the bill, the purchase order, needs to be comparing it to what cost that is agreed to, and make sure that that's right. And then,
you get cost. We get letters from the management companies of the apartment complexes here with respect to the price of our water. And it's the same thing.
Essentially.
They're essentially contracting. What they do is they, in their letter, and I don't know how they would accomplish this because they're locked in geographically, but if our increase in the water rate, if we're going to increase it beyond a certain agreed level, then they reserve the right to rebid it. And that's what we would do with these vendors.
Okay, yeah, that's certainly a way to look at it. Yep. Mhm.
And so and with respect to something like chlorine, that would be especially helpful right now where it's behaving a little bit like lumber, where the price isn't, a weekly determination. If we can find someone will agree to, we may pay a little bit more than we want to lock in the
Overall.
price across. Yeah. And but that, and there are companies out there that would prefer predictability over maximizing profit on the volatility. So there are some economies to be had there, and that's a good way for us to approach that.
Yeah. So there's a lot to think about. I mean, as usual, when you start digging into something like this, you find out like all the little things you didn't know that were sitting in the corners, and but I feel like going through this flow chart has helped me learn about what our exposures are there, things that we need to make decisions on. And I don't know at this point if it's terribly beneficial to kind of get into each of these charts as much as it might be helpful to, I found that I kind of I stopped because I was like, we really need to know what this means to us, and let's define that before I start hypothesizing on the next chart, so to speak. So let me just go an overview of what I did, and then I'll talk about what those decisions are, and then if you want to go back and look at each of them, we can do that. The first one is the original purchase flow chart, and that is, you've already seen this. This is the one where if you need to buy something and you're deciding whether it needs to go to bid or not, and then also how you get the invoice paid for and everything. So that's all in here. And in that, we had already set some thresholds of $5,000. If an item is under $5,000, you can proceed with certain actions. And we may need to come back and revisit that $5,000 number. I'm not sure. But anyway, this just sort of gets the ball rolling. There's also an emergency caveat in here, which probably is appropriate, but also I've addressed later on. So that's kind of just a daily overview. But if something in this process pushes you over to, then you require a bid, on the next grouping of flow charts, you should have the first sheet saying bid process level A. And I just made made the 4 levels, level A, B, C, and D. The first one is A, 0 through 2,500. The next one's 2,500 through 10,000, then 10,000 to 25,000 and over 25,000, because each of those seem to have differences in how you handle them. And I don't know, it just seemed a little easier to say A, B, C, and D rather than those numbers all the time. So level A would be 0 to 2,500, and that's where you can have, you don't even have to have bids, honestly, based on what I read in the code. But it talks about how we want to document it. It also, the other thing that I encountered a lot was this whole business, how no bid is not a bid. That's a little more addressed later on. But then this also says, is this item within your budget and within your spending threshold? And if it's not, then what do you do about that? And so the first one's pretty simple since it doesn't really require a lot of bidding. If you go to the second page, level B, now this is, but in all cases, you'll see the first thing that you have to do is determine whether or not purchasing this is something that's going to be repetitive over the year, even if it's not the same vendor. So the first block is, are all payments made to a single or multiple vendors for the same or similar commodity or service? Will that exceed 25,000 in one 12-month period? And if you say no, then you just move on to the simple process in that level. Otherwise, you go out to the $25,000 bid process. So level B is where we require verbal bids. And so once you establish that you're in this bid level, then you want to try to get 3 bids, and there's some definitions there. You can use a faxed signed bid, that piece of paper, that's fine. You want to document everything, and you can use screen prints from the internet on a direct purchase. And but again, no bid is not considered a bid. And so if you have, but it also, there's another chart that I'm going to set up that talks about if you don't think you're going to be able to get 3 bids, what do you do? So you see that little arrow there that shoots it over there. And if you don't have 3 bids, again, what do you do? And a lot of these are then, well, if I end up with this condition, I cycle back to the purchasing agency, whoever that might be.
A quick question about that. Earlier you said up to 10,000 on that level. I have 5,000 on my copy. Which were you thinking of?
I think you're looking at the old.
Am I looking at an old
original
copy?
one.
Yeah, you want to be, no, you're probably looking at the wrong PDF. So the original purchase flow chart is one PDF. Then there's another flow chart that I sent today called bid processes. You want to open that one up? That's the one that I'm on.
Oh, I'm using paper copies. There was one that had just the 4 levels like
Oh
this.
yeah, I've extrapolated that into about 7 sheets of paper now, Chris.
Okay. I see now, level A. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it?
Got it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so level B, we just talked about, that takes verbals, and even though they're verbals, you want to document them. And then level C is 10,000 to 25,000. And this is where we want written written bids. And in all these cases, the other thing that I also added after determining that you do need to bid. So you see the spending threshold on the left there, it arrows over to the big box in the center, and then below, no. So it's not $25,000 in the year. So the next thing is I got a box in here for document specifications. I feel like we have a challenge with that in our organization, is that we're going out and we bid stuff and we don't necessarily know what we're bidding, and so, or what we're asking for bids on. And so I would like to get us writing things down a little bit more cleanly, even if it's a verbal situation. So again, getting 3 bids, if there may be a circumstance under which too, if you're going to send out like an email solicitation to someone, that's when we want to invoke, okay, a deadline for it. And so that needs to be clear and fair to everyone, that kind of thing. So that's added on here. So basically those 3 things are the same, with just the difference of it doesn't require a bid, it's a verbal bid or it's a written bid. I didn't go into D, which is the over 25,000, because I feel like at that point we're going to launch into this thing that this software.
Right.
And we may decide that that's a vehicle for us in level C. There might be times when that's appropriate, but certainly level D will be that way. So I did not write a level D. All right. So then if you go over to the tab that's marked bid exceptions, the top one discusses what you do if you have a tie bid. So I just like unpacked that and wrote it all down. Then what happens if there's a bid error? Basically, again, I unpacked all of that and wrote it down. And how you handle it, what kind of error it is, and what you can do with it. And then this is the one that we always seem to run into an issue with, is what do we do when 3 bids are not possible? And so there's a couple circumstances that the state allows you to proceed if there are not 3 bids available. One is that you have an emergency situation, and so we'll create a document that talks about what an emergency situation is and does it apply. The other thing that you can do is you can have a solicitation that advertises that you intend to make a direct award on this, or that it may be possible, or that 3 bids, I'm sorry, it may be possible that 3 bids are not available when you make your solicitation. You may say that, and sometimes that then opens up the door. And then there's this direct award caveat, which is you may make a direct award if you decide that it is in the best interest of the municipality. that you are able to document that there is no other source available or willing to replace an existing source without detrimental effect to the spending unit, which would be the municipality. You make intent to make the direct award advertised for no less than 10 days, and also that no other vendor expresses interest in providing the commodity. And then you document all of that. I need a little bit of clarification that we don't have to do all 4 of those things, but in any event, there is a path forward for that kind of a thing. So that's that. And then the last one is just the award process. What do you do? And it really just talks about documenting everything, how you that contracts should be fixed and firmed, for pricing. And then if you run into a situation where you want to you end up finding the need to award to someone who is not the lowest bidder, then you again go through a documentation process that needs to be signed by those people who are evaluating it, and providing explanation, and that's held in a file. So this kind of also just nails down that we need to document. And the code, I tried to reference the code itself by the state. So I didn't get any further than that because I felt like we needed to define a couple things. But anyway, any questions from what I already talked about?
Looks good. I was thinking back to our first section where we had bid express. Do you think Storm, do you think documentation will be able to be put there?
Oh,
Yeah, in the platform itself, I think there's a dashboard where we will have all of the projects that are out to bid that have passed through. I would say in the documentation, if it's been thought about yet, if not, we should think about how internally we're going to track the bids.
That's what I mean, track, but also document 10 years from now, or I mean, not 10, but a year from now, we need to look at that bid again. Right now, you try to find something in that office, good luck in paper.
Yeah, the simplest way would just to set up either through the Microsoft platform, we'll use Google Drives for it sometimes, just a central electronic repository of some sort, and then devising a filing system that will enable it. Maybe it's by year, maybe it's by project type. And there are dedicated platforms for doing that sort of thing, but that's where you can get into, and I have not explored those, but they can be more costly and difficult to run, platforms like Asana and others that are geared towards small business, but that might be ahead of things a little bit.
Well, Deb, it looks really good. Really good.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I think we need to, we keep running into terminology that says, refer to the purchasing agency, refer to the purchasing department. So we need that. We don't have one of those in this municipality. So that's something that we're going to need to, as this becomes a more, something that's written in Arial and not my handwriting. we'll want to, clean up those terms. So be thinking about that. And the other thing that I found is that there are certain circumstances beyond which, consultation with one person in a department might be adequate, but then there might be other circumstances where you need more people to consult with on the level of purchasing. So again, we're very, very small. We don't even have a purchasing department. And so if there's a tie bid or if there is a bidding circumstance that's unusual and, whoever is the deemed person to be the main evaluator on a daily basis, if they need to pull in some other people, who are those people going to be? We need to define that. Let's see.
It kind of seems like it'll be this committee for things over certain thresholds, and for the very highest, it's probably town council. Like if you're talking about something over 25 grand, that shouldn't.
Right. Right. So if that's, and I think that's a logical way to look at it. And I think if we can incorporate that into our process in the flow chart, then when we bring all this to council to approve, then we got our mechanism all set up. We don't need to be wondering about, okay, well, this is only $10,000, but there's a bidding issue. Do I have to take it to council, right? That, we can just go through the process and then report the results to council rather than having them vote on it. So we're going to need to clean that up and define that.
And I would think also make sure that whatever we decide on that is within state law, and
Well,
I don't know. Do they get into levels and who has to?
Well,
they don't. Okay.
They don't ever say, oh, it needs to go to the House of Representatives, right? But they talk about approvals at the purchasing agency level, right? And we don't have that. So it almost seems like from council, perhaps there may need to be someone on council who is the procurement liaison or director or something, or I don't know what you want to call it, but somebody who has some authority and the back and the second eyes of someone in an administrative position in the office who's assigned to help navigate and approve some of those issues as they come forward, and then help determine whether they need to go higher to council.
Maybe it can be, the escalation can be the first level, maybe it's for levels A and B, that it's a lot like the check signing, that anybody on budget, any of the three on budget and finance can do that. That way, especially if it's an emergency, you can get someone to sign off if it's relatively low dollars, low stakes. And then if maybe it's at level C, I'm not actually looking at the levels right now, that's when it would have to be approved by budget and finance on the whole. And then at whatever threshold council would approve then, or whatever we would recommend and council agrees with, would need to be escalated and approved by the town council on the whole, which is probably only the highest level.
Right. And with regard to dollar amount, that's certainly one way of looking at it. But then also, if you run into peculiarities that have to do with direct award and, you're not getting the 3 bids and that kind of thing, I think you want a little bit more.
Well, that's what I mean, that if you don't get 3 bids on something that's only $100, the stakes are fairly low. I think it's appropriate to just ask any of us.
Okay.
Whereas if it's no bid and it's $10,000, then you might want to have a little bit more weight behind that.
Okay. We're talking the same language. All right.
Yeah. If someone calls into question, we can say, no, we escalated it appropriately. Mine's looked at it and we approved it.
Okay, great. All right. That's basically what I was saying. Yeah. Okay.
And also for Chris and Storm, I want to let you know, last year, the budget and finance approved things with the town council approved them that you may not be aware of that are approved. They still have to be, well, I don't know.
So you might be thinking about things like we just talked about it today, like with regard to the funding that was approved for Old Time Christmas. They come to, the agency comes to us and they say, okay, we think we want to spend this much money next year. And do you have it available in your budget under X place? And we say, okay, that looks good. It looks like the things you're saying that you want to do are good. And yes, we will approve you for X number of dollars. But when it comes time for them to actually want to spend it, and we might want to establish thresholds here as we move forward, but particularly with that one, that's a lot of money that they're asking for. So we want to see, okay, you're ready to go. This is what, now let's confirm what you said you're going to do. And that comes back into budget and finance. We look at it again, and then council says, okay, you can cut them a check.
Right.
And
so step one is just carving out the money for the thing generically. And we're talking about the specifics of when it's time to purchase, making sure that that's done, that we're conducting due diligence and oversight so that we're certain that it's being spent wisely.
Right. And especially if there's like more than one component involved, like, for instance, like if an organization came and said, okay, we want to get some money for a handicap entrance to our facility. And Budget and Finance already vetted the whole thing, and it was just one item and everything. And then they're like, okay, we did that project, we're ready to go. That's a little bit different than having many components to a dollar amount that rather than just one.
Where it's not laid out specifically exactly how the money's going to be spent.
Right. Or that it could easily change over the course of several months, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because Budget and Finance has approved a lot of things that the council has only seen through the budget, improving of the
Right.
budget.
They don't see it in the specificity that Budget and Finance does. Right. Mhm.
Because we've set aside 20,000 to repaint and fix the town hall exterior. if I remember
Well,
correctly.
interior and exterior
Okay. I stand
Both.
corrected.
together. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. So anyway, yes, I think we're on a good track, and I guess at this point, I'll just keep working on these, and we'll need to, maybe if you guys can take some time to study them, if you have questions, or if you feel like you want to start defining thresholds or things that will send an arrow off the page to another page, let me know.
Okay. Now, bottom line, Deb, do you see this as like we put together a policy for the town?
Yeah.
That Budget and Finance approves, then we which maybe eventually we do it in the regular Budget and Finance meeting, and then it goes over to the town council for approval.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to create it referencing the state code.
That's
But
good.
we may need to kind of, and I want to keep the flow charts because they're just so much easier
Yes, those
for
are
everybody
awesome.
to understand.
That to me is the policy right there.
Yeah.
Is the flow charts. I'm not even sure you need all the verbiage.
Well, I think we will find circumstances under which we want to say, well, what does this really mean? Or does that,
Well, okay.
so I think, so I can see as I've been working with it and I've been pulling the verbiage out, I'm like, okay, well, I might always want to know to go back and look at that myself, so I think we're going to want to keep connected to that. I think then we have to decide, do we want to write our own prose from the flow chart, or we just want to keep the flow chart as the policy? And then we can always also just use the spending policy. We can brush that up a little bit and reference the flow charts. There's a lot of ways to do it. So
I like that. Mhm.
I don't want to create more work, but at the same time, I want everybody to be able to use it.
Yeah, I agree. Having the pros, it's basically the law for this process, which comports with the law that you
Right.
can refer to, but in
Right.
practical terms, the flow charts are what, 99% of the time, you're going to be
Right.
able to go through that and know exactly what you need to do.
Right.
Anyone will be able to go in there and do it. It's great.
Right. And if we decide we're not going to use Oasis, and then we can say in our flow chart, in our process, in all cases where it references Oasis, we're going to use what is that doodad that you talked about?
The doodad. It's called the doodad. Yeah.
And we can just do that kind of simple swap out. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to until we're all pretty solid on that we're pleased with what we have. I'm not gonna get involved with Visio because it's hard enough changing it with my own pen. So.
Yeah.
Visio. Wow.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's a software for this.
Yeah. I usually use PowerPoint.
Yeah. There's PowerPoint too. Yeah. Yeah.
So for next meeting, we can't do it in 2 weeks. That's for sure. First of all, that falls in close to, that's the end of the month. We got a budget and finance meeting on the 28th already. So I don't know, we would have to do something in October.
Well, I mean, if you did it on the 7th, you'd still have another meeting ahead of the town council meeting, which would be good, give you a lot, another layer of things to report.
Like that. That works for me.
No, I'll be out. I won't be able to attend on the 7th.
Oh.
Yeah, that's about
Is it
the
just
only-
that day or that week?
I have a business. I have to go up out of town for a business, and that's the 6th and the 7th.
I can meet the 5th.
Yeah, how about the 5th?
I can do that.
I'm good.
Okay.
Bill?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, we'll do
And are we
October
gonna-
5th.
Can we do 2 o'clock again?
Yeah,
Yep.
And are we gonna try to have done something with Elk Run by then? Is that
Yeah,
what I heard?
yeah. That means I gotta get caught up. Why are you making a face at me?
ah,
I have more flow charts to make. And I'm getting audited right now.
Oh, no.
You don't have, that's a me thing.
Okay,
And I mean, I'm happy to, if you want to give me some procrastination room, that's fine.
yeah,
But no, I've got to get the documents finished up to be able to participate in ARPA. And that's not
oh, well, I have that language.
right.
You,
but-
you have it too. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
so-
that shouldn't be too hard.
no. And then, I think we can do that without taxing you too greatly.
Okay,
I'll go ahead and set up. I'll coordinate the 3 of us with the Bid Express agent to see about.
all
getting
right,
that.
okay. Okay, sounds good. All right,
And then on the flow chart, we are just gonna review some more and see if we find any snags or.
Yep. Anything you don't understand, suggestions you want to make, concerns you have, just let me know, pop in here or whatever.
okay.
Okay. And Christian, I have a question about our protocol too. I've been taking minutes, and I'm assuming minutes are required for this meeting, although we haven't had any motions. Are we gonna try to approve those 3 sets
Yeah, why
next
don't we,
time?
yeah.
Okay,
Senator, and I'll get them, we'll put them on the next agenda, and I won't
Okay.
mess up this time, like twice, for that meeting.
So that agenda, Christine, put on your calendar will need to be submitted by 1, 2, 3, I think Thursday, the 30th of September. 1, 2, 3. I think that's right. Go for the 29th and then you have it right.
29.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. You got it. I'm excited. I think we made a lot of progress today.
Mhm.
I feel good about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
the
you,
flow- the
Deb
flow
and
chart's
Storm,
great.
especially for doing all that homework. And
Yeah. And guys, work on that letter. We gotta have that. It's on
oh,
Armory, the Armory and,
Oh, yeah.
well, I thought Greg was gonna be doing most of that work.
Yeah, he was gonna
oh, he
put it
did?
through the,
Oh, okay.
he's gonna put it through the how things can get done filter. And then,
Does he have it yet? Does he have a draft now?
I haven't heard from him yet. Yeah, I have a good feeling about that one. Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Okay.
All right.
well, I'll send you a
All
note
right.
later. Okay,
And with that, well, we're done.
Okay. Thank
thank
you.
you all. Have a
Thank
good,
you, everybody.
good evening.